Here.
McCormick.
Here.
Just amazing.
Right in.
Beautiful, wonderful.
Excused.
Stewart.
Here.
Weinberg.
Here.
Woog.
Excused.
Leader.
Excused.
Madam Chair.
Here. Okay, welcome everyone to the Health and Human Services Committee. We are hearing 3 bills today. Senate Bill 60, House Bill 1347, and then House Bill 1314 for action only. We are going to have 2 minutes for witness testimony, and we will have 10-minute panels. We'll have everyone ask their first question, and if we have time, we'll go around and have second questions answered. We are going to try really hard to be efficient because we know folks have been waiting most of the day to testify here, so we want to make sure we can get to everyone and be efficient with our time. So thank you so much for being here, and with that, I'll turn it over to the sponsors. Representative Hamrick.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm here today to present Senate Bill 26-060, Mental Health Training and Concussion Education, also known as Alyssa's Youth Concussion and Mental Health Protection Act, a bill that closes a critical gap in how we protect young athletes in Colorado. When I first heard Alyssa's story, my heart broke. As a mother, I can only imagine the pain her family has carried. Alyssa Peterson was a bright, kind, and athletic 13-year-old who lived in Colorado. Her mother, Stella, who is with us today, describes her as a natural athlete from the time she could walk, a child who loved every sport she tried. Alyssa had dreams of becoming a professional soccer player, and she worked hard every single day to make that dream a reality. Alyssa also had concussions and sports-related head injuries. As she turned 13, her family began to notice emotional shifts, changes that couldn't quite be explained. They didn't know then what we know now, that concussions can have profound effects on a young person's mental health. Alyssa died by suicide at 13 years old. Stella is here today because she wants other families to have what so many families don't, the information and the resources to recognize what they are seeing in their child and know what to do about it. That is exactly what this bill is about. The link between concussions and mental health is not widely understood, and Senate Bill 26-060 exists to change that so that coaches and parents have the knowledge to recognize the signs earlier, and kids can get the support they need as soon as possible. Right now, Colorado law requires coaches to recognize concussions and remove athletes from play. That's an important first step, but the law stops short. It says nothing about what happens to that young athlete's mental health after the whistle blows. The research is clear. Concussions don't just affect the body. They can trigger anxiety, depression, mood changes, and in the most serious cases, have been linked to suicidal ideation. These symptoms can emerge days or even weeks after the initial injury, long after an athlete has been sent home and a coach has moved on to the next game. Senate Bill 26-060 addresses this in 2 straightforward ways. First, it requires coaches of youth athletic activities at public and private middle schools, high schools, clubs, leagues, and recreation facilities to complete a biannual mental health education course covering anxiety, depression, trauma, substance abuse, suicide prevention, and a coach's direct impact on athlete well-being. Second, when a young athlete is removed from play due to a suspected concussion, the coach or organization must notify the athlete's parent or legal guardian about potential psychological symptoms that their child may experience. As a long-distance and track coach for high school girls and boys, I've experienced firsthand the unique position coaches hold. We aren't just teaching form and strategy. We're often the first line of support for student athletes' well-being. Coaches are often the first trusted adults to notice when something is wrong. They see these kids every day, the mood shifts, the withdrawal, the changes in behavior. This bill gives them the tools to act on what they are seeing and ensures parents are equipped to follow up at home. Colorado has been a leader in youth concussion law since the Jake Snakenberg Act. This bill is the next step in that legacy.
A.M.L. Winter.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm proud to co-sponsor Senate Bill 26-060, and I want to speak to why this legislation makes practical sense for coaches, for schools, and communities across Colorado. We already ask youth athletic coaches to learn how to spot a concussion. That's made a real difference, but there is a piece of the puzzle we have left out. What happens to young athletes' mental and emotional health in the aftermath of that brain injury? The research backs this up. The American Academy of Pediatrics and leading sports medicine journals have documented the link between concussions and psychological outcomes, including anxiety, depression, and behavioral changes in youth athletes. These are not rare edge cases. They are a predictable and documented consequence of brain injury that our current coach education framework does not address. Senate Bill 60 fixes that in a targeted way. Schools, clubs, leagues, and recreational facilities must require their coaches to complete a biannual mental health education course, one that can be held in conjunction with existing concussion training programs already in place and is available for free online. And if a youth athlete is removed from play due to a suspected concussion, their parent or guardian must be notified of the potential psychological and mental health symptoms that may follow. This is not a mandate that creates new bureaucracy. There is no state appropriation required. The fiscal note confirms zero cost to the state. The Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment will see only minimum workload to update existing materials, and local governments and school districts will have flexibility on how they implement these requirements. States that have already moved in this direction have seen measurable results. Between 2021 and 2023, Ohio, North Carolina, and Washington expand coach education programs to include mental health awareness and reported higher rates of early referral to school counselors and community supports. New Jersey and Massachusetts, which integrated concussion education with mental health guidance, saw improved parent notification practices and earlier symptom monitoring. Colorado has the opportunity to build on that evidence and strengthen the protections we already have in place for young athletes. And with that, I encourage a yes vote.
Thank you, sponsors. Just wanted to note that we've been joined by Representative Woog and Representative Frey. Any questions for the sponsor? I'm sorry. And Vice Chair Leader. Just thought you were there the whole time. And Representative Barone. There we go. Okay. Almost everyone's here. Questions for the sponsors? Representative Woog.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And this may have been evident. Forgive me for being a few minutes late, but how do we know how many extra classes or hours or what's the training until? And the reason I ask is I do some coaching for my son's hockey, and I know there's it seems like a substantial amount already. Obviously, it's an incredibly important topic, but just do you know what extra, and do all youth sports right now require training? Because I know for the youth hockey they do. So thank you.
Representative Hamrick.
Yeah, all youth sports require the concussion training, and it's an hour online class, and it comes from the National Federation of State High School Associations, and it's run through CHASA. And this new piece would be on mental health training, which is about 3 hours online, also on CHASA.
And to note, we've been joined by Representative Ride and any other Representative Bradfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to thank the bill sponsors for bringing this bill. My granddaughter is one of the best soccer players this state has produced. However, in the high school, she's had 2 really severe concussions from soccer. And her doctor said, Abigail, can't guarantee that the third won't have some real serious complications. Therefore, this young lady that could have had a full ride scholarship to play soccer chose not to and to go a different route. I applaud her. It was a tough decision.
Representative.
Thank you.
Yeah, we were just discussing that, and the beauty of this bill is it gets the information to the coaches, because as a coach, many of you guys were coaches. We want all the information that we can get on making sure that our athletes are healthy and thriving and happy, and all of that. And so it's just really good for the coaches, but also for the parents. How the parents not only are notified of a concussion, but also these resources that they can look at for mental health. So it's just great for the athletes, for the coaches, and for the parents.
Representative Boog.
Thank you. Sorry, one last question. Is there any additional? Is there liability now on the coaches? Do they have to worry, since there's this additional training, if they make a mistake or miss something?
Representative Hamrick.
We have an amendment that will be running at the end of this meeting that deals with the liability issue, because state employees have sort of liability covered, but the privates don't. And so we have a clarification in our amendment that narrows the civil liability protections for coaches to specify that they apply to those who are not already covered by existing governmental immunity. So they're covered.
Okay, seeing no additional questions, thank you, sponsors. We appreciate it. We'll bring up our panel of witnesses now. I'd like to call up Stella Deslongchamp. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing all of your last names. Dennis as well, and Emily Peterson, Dr. Mark Allen, Wendy Buxton Andrade, and then I have a Rick Padilla or a Monty. I think both are. Do we have an extra? Thank you all so much for sticking with us. I know you've been here, most of you have been here since the middle of the day, so really appreciate you taking the time. You will have 2 minutes if you want to introduce yourself and the organization you represent. And why don't we start with Stella?
Is it on?
It's the little green button. There you go.
Okay. Stella DeLongchamp, and then do I just start?
Yeah, if you want to say your name and the organization you represent or what, the position you're representing, and then you have 2 minutes.
Okay. Stella DeLongchamp, I am Emily Peterson's mom. Dear Chair and members of the committee, my name is Stella DeLongchamp. I'm an Arvada, Colorado resident and parent of Alyssa Peterson, a young athlete who lost her life suffering several concussions. When we lost Alyssa, I didn't have the strength to speak at her funeral, and I was completely shocked and heartbroken. But today I do have the strength to use my voice for Alyssa and for my daughter Emily and for families across Colorado. Thank you for listening to my testimony in support of Alyssa's Act, Senate Bill 60. Alyssa was a bright and compassionate young athlete girl who loved the outdoors and loved sports. She skied competitively, she played soccer youth year-round, and dreamed of one day playing at the highest level and becoming a coach. She was also incredibly kind. She was the kind of child who notices when someone was left out and made sure that they were included. In November 2019, we lost Alyssa to suicide, and she was only 13 years old. After her death, our family began searching for answers. As I reviewed her medical history and reflected on her childhood, I began to wonder whether repeated concussions of years of youth sports have affected her brain and her mental health in ways we just did not understand at the time. Like many families, we didn't always recognize the signs of a concussion. Sometimes symptoms seemed small. Sometimes she was just so strong, she just wanted to keep playing. What I have since learned is that concussions can impact not only the physical brain, but also mood, emotional regulation, and mental health, especially in young athletes. Since sharing Alyssa's story, we have seen overwhelming bipartisan support, and we are so grateful that this bill has already passed the Senate unanimously. This legislation helps ensure that when a young athlete experiences a concussion, families are informed about possible mental health impact, and coaches receive education on how brain injuries can affect emotional well-being. My younger daughter, Emily, is here today as well. She continues to play competitive soccer, and Alyssa's story has shaped how she supports and looks out for other athletes. No law can bring Alyssa back, but this bill has the power to help other families recognize the signs earlier, start important conversations, and support young athletes before it's too late. On behalf of Alyssa, Emily, and families across Colorado, I respectfully ask for your yes vote on Alyssa's Act, Senate Bill 60. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We'll move to, oh yeah, please, Emily.
Hi, my name is Emily Peterson. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Emily Peterson. I'm a junior and student athlete at Ralston Valley High School in Arvada, Colorado. And I also play club soccer for the Colorado Rapids Select 1 team. I'm here today to testify in support of Alyssa's Act, Senate Bill 60, for my older sister, Alyssa. Alyssa was someone I always looked up to. She loved sports, she was competitive, determined, and always pushed herself to keep going. Over time, she experienced several concussions that were never fully recognized or treated. In 2019, we lost Alyssa to suicide. I was 10 years old and she was 13. Losing her changed my life forever. Today, I still play competitive soccer and I understand the pressure many athletes feel to push through injuries and stay in the game. But concussions are different. Sometimes the symptoms aren't obvious and athletes don't always understand what they're experiencing. Or they don't want to speak up. Sorry. What I've come to understand is that concussions can affect not just how you play, but how you feel, including your mood, emotions, and mental health. That's why Alyssa's Act matters. Thank you. Sorry. This bill helps raise awareness about the connection between concussions and mental health, and it supports students not just in returning to sports, but in returning to school and everyday life. Since sharing Alyssa's story, we've seen so much support, and it means a lot to know people are listening and are working to make things better for student athletes. I'm sharing her story because I hope it helps protect other young athletes and other families across Colorado. Thank you for listening and considering this legislation. I urge you to support Alyssa's Act, Senate Bill 60. My stepdad, Dennis, will also share a few words about why this legislation matters to our family.
Thank you for your testimony. Please proceed.
My name is Dennis DeLongchamp. Chair and members of the committee, my name is Dennis DeLongchamp. I'm also a resident of Arvada, Colorado. I'm here today with my wife Stella and our daughter Emily to testify in support of Alyssa's Act, Senate Bill 60. I never had a chance to meet Alyssa, but she is a part of our family every single day. Her photos are in our home. We talk about her often, and her story continues to shape our lives. When you love someone who's lost a child, you see the weight of that loss every day. But you also see the strength it takes to turn that grief into something that can help others. I've watched Stella work tirelessly to honor Alyssa's life and bring awareness to the connection between brain injuries and mental health in young athletes. And I've watched Emily step forward in an incredibly brave way to share her perspective as both a student athlete and Alyssa's sister. As a parent, I spend a lot of times on the sidelines watching Emily do what she loves. Like every parent, I want to know that young athletes have the best protections possible. Sports give kids confidence, friendships, and opportunities that are incredibly valuable. But they also have come with responsibility for parents, coaches, and schools to make sure every young athlete is protected. What we understand much more clearly today is that concussions can affect more than just physical health. They can impact how young people think, feel, and behave. Alyssa's Act helps ensure that families and coaches have better awareness of those risks so that young athletes can receive the support that they need. We are incredibly grateful for the bipartisan support this bill has already received and for the opportunity to be here with you today. Our family cannot change what happened to Alyssa, but if her story and Emily's voice help protect other young athletes in Colorado, then her life will continue to make a difference. I urge you to support Alyssa's Act, Senate Bill 60. Thank you for the opportunity for allowing us to be here today, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Monte Ball. I am testifying in support of Senate Bill 60, and I am here representing Game Plan Life Foundation and as someone who has lived through what happens when we do not understand brain injuries. My foundation works with schools and youth athletes to bring real conversations about mental health into sports. We help athletes, coaches, and families understand that the brain is the most important part of the body to protect. I played football for 20 years of my life. I was fortunate enough to play at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and for the Denver Broncos in the National Football League. During that time, I had 5 documented concussions. 3 of those left me unconscious. But if I'm being honest with you, the number that keeps me up at night is not 5. It's hundreds. Hundreds of undocumented hits to the head, hits where I saw stars, hits where the world spun for a few seconds, and I just lined back up because that is what all athletes are taught to do, when coaches aren't aware of serious consequences of concussions. Over time, something started to happen to me that no one understood. I had constant headaches. My personality began to change. I became distant from the people who loved me most. My relationships suffered. I struggled with emotional connection and intimacy. I felt confused inside my own mind. My family saw it before I did. They knew something was wrong with their son, their brother, their partner, but they did not know, what they were looking at. They did not know what to do. And the scariest part is neither did I. Eventually, I began drinking heavily just to quiet my mind. Alcohol became my best friend and the only way I knew how to cope with the pain, the confusion, and the person I was slowly becoming. It got so bad that I had to enter intensive mental health treatment just to get my life back. Looking back, the hardest part for me is knowing my family watched me slowly change and had no roadmap for how to help. That is why this bill matters. Because when coaches understand the mental health impact of brain injuries, they become the first people who can recognize that something deeper may be happening to a young athlete. And when we give coaches that knowledge, we are not just protecting players, we are protecting families from the fear and confusion my family lived through, but most importantly, that Alyssa's family is living through. Thank you for your time and consideration. I urge you to vote yes for Senate Bill 60.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Wendy Buxton Andrade, and I'm here representing Mental Health Colorado in support of Senate Bill 60. Since 1953, Mental Health Colorado, the nonpartisan, nonprofit organization, has been acting as our state's leading advocate for Coloradoans' mental health and is committed to promoting a strong start for all children. Health education and prevention measures are the keys to making sure that young Coloradoans reach adulthood in the best possible state of health. This must be our priority as parents and families. This bill promotes greater awareness of the intersection of our youth people's athleticism and their mental health and well-being. This bill ensures that all coaches working with young athletes in Colorado receive mental health training and follow a concussion protocol for supporting best possible health outcomes after a young person experiences a concussion. This bill does not make a coach liable for missing signs or for poor health outcomes. As the old saying goes, it takes a village. Every village in the state loves its young athletes and shows up for them and celebrates them when they are winning and even when they are losing, especially when they both win and lose with grace and sportsmanship that we love to witness in action. This bill acknowledges that eyes and understanding of coaches are some of the most important eyes and ears on our young athletes in every community. When coaches recognize and respond to distress in a timely way, young athletes heal and thrive. Many parents and coaches do not realize that a child can have life-depleting mental health consequences and even a life-threatening mental health crisis after a concussion. I was one of these parents. Until you have slept outside of your child's door at night and making sure you do everything you can think of to keep them safe from themselves, you cannot know what that's like, and I don't wish that on anyone. We honor Alyssa and her family and know Alyssa's act will improve and save the lives of young athletes. Early interventions are life-saving. Great coaching is legendary. This bill will lead to more of both. Thank you for your yes vote on Senate Bill 60, Alyssa's Act. Saving children's lives has to be our top priority for the state of Colorado. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We'll move on to virtually Dr. Mark Allen.
Good evening, representatives, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Mark Allen, and I'm a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist practicing here in Denver. And I specialize in sports psychiatry and athlete mental health. Over the course of my career, I've worked with athletes at many levels, from youth and collegiate athletes to professional organizations such as the Denver Broncos, the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the WWE. I'm here today to express my strong support for Senate Bill 2660, Alyssa's Youth Concussion Mental Health and Protection Act. Youth sports are one of the most powerful environments we have for healthy development. They teach teamwork, discipline, perseverance, and resilience. For many young people, sports are also where they find identity, mentorship, and community. But we also know that young athletes face real mental health challenges, including anxiety, depression, performance pressure, and the psychological effects of injury. Coaches are the first responders in sport. They're often the first adults to notice changes in athletes' behavior, mood, or functioning. In my clinical work, I frequently see athletes whose struggles were first noticed by a coach or teammate. For example, I've worked with young athletes who developed anxiety, mood changes, and sleep problems after a concussion. Families are often surprised because those symptoms don't always look like what we traditionally think of as a sports injury. We increasingly understand, though, that brain injuries do not only affect balance or memory, they can actually affect mood, sleep, and emotional regulation as well. When coaches and parents understand what to look for, they're much more likely to recognize that those changes early and help connect athletes to appropriate care. In many areas of safety, we recognize the importance of basic training. Most people are in this room are familiar with CPR or the Heimlich maneuver, and coaches are often trained in AED use. But expanding that awareness to include mental health and concussion awareness is a natural extension of protecting youth athletes. In many ways, you could think of this as mental health first aid for youth sports. Consistency and shared understanding also matter. When coaches across communities have access to similar education and resources, it helps ensure that student athletes receive thoughtful and informed support no matter where they play. Mental health is also fundamentally a safety issue. Suicide remains one of the leading causes of death among young people. So this kind of education is brief but powerful. Colorado, by the way, is also uniquely positioned to lead in this space because we have down I-25, the USOPC, we have Project Play down in Aspen, and all of these things promote healthy youth sports participation nationally. Athletes do not exist in isolation. Their well-being depends on a system around them that supports them, and so I very much appreciate your yes vote on this bill.
Thank you for your testimony. We'll move on to Mr. Padilla.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, folks. Thank you, committee, for taking up this bill. And I want to say a special thank you to the DeLong Champs and Monty Ball for coming out and speaking on this bill. And of course, Mental Health Colorado, they've been strong advocates throughout the youth mental health space. I am, to know my testimony, I can briefly tell you my story. I am a parent. I'm a suicide loss survivor. And I'm somebody that used to investigate child abuse. I work for a national foundation called the Menninger Foundation, a national youth project. As a relief house parent, started a status offender program for the state of Kansas. Went to law school, got into affordable housing and finance for 25 years. My last stint in that field was the housing director for the city and county of Denver. That all changed on February 14th of 2019. We lost our 15-year-old son, Jack, to suicide. He was a freshman at Cherry Creek High School. That year in our district, we lost 6 kids to suicide. When we talk about the impact of suicide on a family, it's a community-wide impact. I am also a former collegiate rugby player. Know a little bit about getting bonked in the head and bruised up a little bit. Never, fortunately, have had a concussion. I'm really very much in support of this bill. I think it goes a long way in addressing youth mental health. And as Dr. Allen had spoke, we know that youth suicide, at least in the year that I think that Longchamps lost Alyssa and we lost Jack, it was the #1 cause of death for 10 to 18-year-olds. It's now the #2 cause of death. The Rocky Mountains are known as the suicide belt now. It's a prolific problem in our state and across the country, specifically in the Rocky Mountains. I would like to strongly encourage you to support this bill, but I do have 3 questions I'd like you to address. Why aren't referees and umpires included in this bill? They are the police on the pitch, on the field watching. The coaches are watching their kids. Some of these folks are watching the entire field of play. And I'm not quite sure what a good faith effort is. In 2019, you folks passed a bill called Jack and Kate's Law. It had to do with the model behavioral health legislation and policies that school districts have put together. School districts are not following up on it. So I wonder what a good faith effort is. And I also wonder what a sufficient course might include.
Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate all the witnesses here today. Any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you all so much for coming and sharing your stories. They were incredibly powerful. Are there any folks online or in person who would like to testify? Okay, seeing none, the witness testimony is closed. Sponsors, would you like to come back up? I hear you have an amendment. Representative Hamrick.
Yes, we have L005 that you're getting right now. There's a couple of technical fixes that we have there. The Senate changed the mental health education to biennial, once every 2 years, but missed a second reference, so we changed that. And the Senate also removed language in one part of the bill that required both concussion and mental health courses to discuss the interaction between the two. There seems to be disagreement by experts about the formal connection between the two, so forcing the linkage was a sticking point for the medical field. This course requirement was removed in one part of the bill for mental health training, but was missed in the concussion training portion of the bill. And this amendment fixes that and the liability clarification that Rep. Woog asked about. It narrows the civil liability protections for coaches to specify they apply to those who are not already covered by existing governmental immunity or volunteer protection laws, ensuring there is no overlap or legal confusion. We ask for an aye vote on L00.
Representative Hamrick, would you like to move the amendment?
I move Amendment L005 to Senate Bill 2660.
Second.
Representative Frey seconds. Okay, no problem. Any questions on this amendment? Okay, any objections to this amendment? Okay, with that, L005 passes. Any additional amendments from the sponsors? Okay, any additional amendments from the committee? Okay, seeing none, the amendment phase is closed. Sponsors, would you like to wrap up? Representative Hamrick.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. First of all, AML Winter and I would like to thank Stella, Emily, Dennis, Monte, and Wendy. They've been here since 12:30, 6 hours, waiting to testify for this very important and life-saving bill. And we just want to thank them for their dedication to Colorado's children and families. Alyssa Peterson loved soccer. She loved competing. She loved her teammates. She had her whole future ahead of her. We named this bill after her because her story is exactly why this legislation matters. The connection between concussions and conditions like anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation is well established. As mentioned by AML Winter, states like New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Ohio have already expanded coach education to include mental health awareness and have seen results, earlier referrals, better parent communication, and fewer crisis-level interventions. Colorado can do the same. This bill asks for a modest annual training commitment from coaches, and in return gives families the knowledge and support they need to recognize when their child is struggling. It ensures that coaches have the education to spot when something is wrong, and that parents are informed when their child sustains a concussion and may be at risk for the mental health effects that can follow. Protecting young athletes doesn't end when they leave the field. With Senate Bill 2660, as amended, we make sure that protection follows them home. I ask for your support.
AML Winter.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. And first and foremost, it's an honor to be on this bill for the family. I played college football, and I'm kind of a college football fanatic, so I don't think you all know who you were sitting with today. Mr. Ball was a 2-time Census All-American and a finalist for the Heisman Trophy. He had 3 100-yard rushing games in the Rose Bowl. I think that's still a record today. I think it was November of 2012, he against Penn State scored his 79th touchdown. And I think that made him at that time the all-time point scorer in college football. So I mean, he deserves his accolades while he's in here too, and I appreciate him coming down. It's an honor to be on this bill for him as well. Senate Bill 60 is practical, a low-cost update to framework Colorado has already invested in. We have existing concussion education requirements. We have existing return-to-play protocols. This bill adds the one component that is currently missing, the mental health piece. National youth sports associations have found that when coaches receive brief mental health training, athletes are more likely to disclose emotional distress and seek help earlier, reducing the likelihood of crisis-level interventions down the line. That is a better outcome for athletes, for families, and frankly, for the systems that bear the cost when these crises go unaddressed. This bill is straightforward, it's evidence-based, and it builds on the work Colorado has already done. I ask you for a yes vote on Senate Bill 2660. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Haymark, would you like to move your bill?
I would, Madam Chair. Thank you. I move Senate Bill 2660 as amended with a favorable recommendation to the Committee of the Whole.
Second.
Vice Chair Leader seconds. Closing comments from the committee. Representative Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you to all of you that came out to testify. Your stories and lived experience is very powerful, and I'm very sorry that you're here in the first place. I represent a part of the state that they did articles on the rate of suicide as it jumped exponentially in 2018 and 2019. We had double the rate for ages 10 to 18-year-olds. And so to be able to chip away at this, truly catastrophic issue that our state is facing, I'll be a strong yes today and appreciate you bringing this forward.
Additional comments from the committee. Representative Bradfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the sponsors and all of the people that came to testify. I certainly appreciate your patience with us. And yes, I strongly support your bill.
Representative Wook.
Thank you. Thank you for the bill. It's obviously very crucially important. I was raised by a dad who was a paramedic for a while. He was a chiropractor, and I was the kid in the neighborhood that had to, when he was home, had to wear a helmet on the skateboard, and this was in the 80s, helmet on a bicycle. He knew how important it was. My only, and I'm going to be a yes, it's crucial that we help people and make sure they're staying out of this physical activity when they need to be. My only concern, and again, as a coach, a volunteer coach, is and again, this pales in comparison to helping people and making sure they're healthy. I just want to make sure that's clear. But as a volunteer, doing this job, I tried to volunteer coach my son's hockey team. And for hockey here, you got to take coaching. I think it was like 12 hours and then a concussion class. And my only small concern is that people that want to volunteer and coach, that it may be less and less. That's it. I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that, but that's my only concern moving forward. Is just obviously we want kids to make sure there's plenty of coaches and people that want to help that can on their time. So, but again, that pales in comparison to making sure people are safe. So I appreciate it, and I will be a yes.
Representative Weinberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ron Weinberg on committee. I was a coach for 10 years. I don't know if anybody knew that. I was the head coach at Colorado State University. Women's rugby, men's rugby. A lot of what Representative Woog just said, I won't echo as I agree with it. My genuine concern is that coaches and everybody else are going to be so cautious with this. And there are going to be falsehoods where some of these kids that don't have a concussion, they're going to get barred for 2 weeks at a time because the liabilities are so large and there's such at risk for somebody to make that call of whether somebody has got a concussion or not. I think we've done how many years at this point, through rugby, through hockey, through tough sports, and some of these kids are, I don't know. I can't get behind it. And for those reasons, I'm a no today.
Vice Chair Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank you for bringing the bill. And thank you for those who waited so long. We were on the floor trying to protect workers. Thank you for waiting, and thank you for your stories. It's made me really stop and think, because my son was not in football or those type of sports, but he did have, at the age of 12, an endo coming down the mountain on a bicycle. And it was a double compound fracture. I got to the emergency room, and both bones are sticking out of his arm. And he had a helmet on, thank God, or he would have been drooling on himself, basically, because he split the helmet. And I have that helmet to this day for those little boys that don't want to wear helmets when they're riding bicycles. He split it 2 inches. That helmet literally split it 2 inches in half. And I have to sit here and think, they were too busy with his arm. Did they check his head? I don't know. But I think this is something critical to bring because of the fact that the coaches are there and they're kind of like the first line of defense. They'll be able to see, these signs. So it definitely made me think with that. And now I'm grandma, but I still got to wonder, did that affect it? Because they were too concentrated on the arm. But thank you again. I'll definitely be a yes with this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, sponsors, so much for bringing the bill today. And thank you for the witnesses. I just wanted to say, I know you waited all day and you only have 2 minutes, and I know how much time and effort it goes into those 2 minutes. And so I just wanted you to know that we all heard you, and it was deeply powerful and impactful. And thank you for turning your story of tragedy into light for so many people. And it is always so inspiring when that happens, when you can turn a really horrific thing that happened to you into something that saves people's lives. So thank you. And with that, Mr. Shadoon, please call the roll.
Representatives Baron.
Yes.
Redfield.
Yes.
Bradley.
Respectfully, no.
English.
Yes.
Foray.
Yes.
Hamrick.
Yes.
McCormick.
Yes.
Bryden.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Weinberg.
Respectfully, no.
Woog.
Yes today.
Leader.
Absolutely yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes. The bill passes 11-2. You're on your way to the committee of the whole.